E te mana whenua tēnā koutou. Ko te ahumarangi te maunga. Ko te whanganui e tara te tai. No Aotearoa aku te puna, no pone ke o. Ko Alistair Gordon, taku ingoa. Hi akuanga o I te whare wananga o Waitaha. No reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Alistair Gordon and I am the team leader for Arnotts and Griffins.
Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa pōnamu te moana, kia tere te karohirohi, I mua o te huarahi. I te mana whenua tēnā koutou, ko Taranaki te maunga, ko Pātia te awa, ko Ngāti Irua Nui te iwi, no Aotearoa aku tīpuna, ko Cam Rogers taku ingoa, e ākonga o e te whare wānanga o Waitaha, no reira tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Tēnā koutou katoa. E te mana whenua tēnā koutou. Ko Poranga tau te manoa. Ko roto iti te roto. No Aotearoa aku tīpuna. No whakatū au. Ko Libby taku ingoa. He ākoanga o e te whare wānanga o Waitaha.
Tēnā koutou katoa. E te mana whenua, tēnā koutou. Ko Takatimo, te maunga. Ko Wahaupai, te awa. No Aotearoa aku te puna. No Wahaupai o. Ko William taku ingoa. He akonga o e te whare wananga o Waitaha. No reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Tēnā koutou katoa. E te mana whenua, tēnā koutou. Ko te kaua te moanga. Ko Huranui te awa, no Howden o. Ko Claudia Joy Button, taka ingoa, he e konga o ai te whare wanga o taha. No era, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Development of a subdivision such as Redmond Spur has a number of regulatory requirements associated with any planning, construction and land use activities carried out during the subdivision's life cycle. Regulations can be imposed by the Christchurch District Council under the Christchurch City District Plan, Environment Canterbury's Land, Water, Air and Regional Plans, and as well as legislated national standards such as the Building Code and Electrical Codes of Practice. Section 9 of the Resource Management Act specifies that one cannot use land that contravenes a district or regional rule unless allowed by a resource consent. So for the purpose of this presentation, activities have been placed into three categories: permitted activity, needs a resource consent, and has additional standards that apply. An activity classed as a permitted activity is allowed under both the district and regional plans. Now in general, an activity of this type is allowed without a resource consent, but there may be some specific rules that constrain the scope of the activities that one should be aware of. An activity that needs a resource consent contravenes a district or regional rule, and the developer will need to submit a resource consent application to the relevant governing body, whether the proposed activity can be allowed or not. Additional standards and rules may apply to an activity irrespective of any district or regional rules. For example, building of a house in the residential hill zone is a permitted activity under the district plan, but the building of that house must also meet the additional requirements of a building consent application. Table 1 shows a breakdown of the regulatory requirements associated with general, commercial and housing activities identified for the conceptual design stage. In some cases, a resource consent for a particular activity is still a possibility given the specifications of that activity are unknown at the conceptual phase of the design. However, we are able to identify elements of the design that for all intents and purposes will require a resource consent. These can include residential lot sizes, building of houses, and the expansion of the commercial zone from 0.3 hectares to 2.4 hectares. Now, we have identified two specific options regarding the expansion of the current commercial local zone. The first option involves rezoning the existing district plan to allow for the expansion of the existing commercial local zone, and the second option involves applying for a resource consent to allow for commercial activity on the adjacent residential hill zone. Just note that the commercial area may be of a size more appropriate to commercial core or commercial mixed zone, so depending on the council's ruling on the proposed commercial area, different rules regarding permitted activities may need to be considered.
We have three options for land use layout. There will be 60% residential, 20% recreational and 20% commercial. The decision was whether to have the areas condensed or dispersed around the development. Recreational areas would have parks and walking or biking tracks. There could be food markets, restaurants, gyms, or fast charge stations in the commercial area. Our preferred option, shown in this slide, is to have the recreational area mostly in the gully and a condensed commercial area at the top of the hill. This could have restaurants and bars that would have a view over the plains. This layout simplifies the consenting process and the construction. It also provides the best amenity to the community by being convenient, safe, and the most cost effective.
So for infrastructure, we looked at two main types for energy, gas and electricity. Gas would have to be delivered in bottles because no underground services in Christchurch, which is pretty standard throughout New Zealand. For electricity, we chose to go for underground cables. Underground cables mean we have to look at the geological setting of the area. And we sit in the Mount Herbert volcanic group, which is predominantly a basalt lava flow, which means it's probably going to be a lot of large, really hard rocks under the ground. So for digging, it's probably going to have a bit of blasting and might come into a bit of problems, which could be some setbacks and additional costs. Our recommendations that we made were 6-star homes and a minimum of 2 kilowatt solar system. This helps sort of future-proof the area and sort of get in line with the direction that this climate's sort of heading with sustainability and reducing energy use in homes. One of those points was orientation. So orientating the houses and the sections so that they sit mostly on the south boundary and the dominant living areas facing towards the north. This allows for better solar heating through the summer, and with a good design can also create sort of a cooling effect in the summer as well. Another big point was insulation. The code minimum that we have throughout New Zealand is incredibly low compared to the rest of the world, and we've got a table here that was put up by brands showing that the increased benefit from sort of reaching above the code minimum and putting in a higher R value insulation throughout your home, and that you can actually lead to really large savings. This will also sort of future-proof the area and bring it online with where we really should be in our building standards. Adequate ventilation through the house sort of will create better flows and fresh air. Damp air can be up to 4 times more energy consuming to heat, which isn't really very efficient. For our heating, the main sort of types of heating that we're looking at in New Zealand be heat pumps and solar fuel burners. Heat pumps there's lots of different types, lots of different sizes. So you're best to consult sort of an expert about that for sizing the best pump for you. They come in different types. You can be ground source, air sourced, or you can tie them with your hot water heating system as well. These can also be, if you decide to put in hot water, solar hot water systems, these can be tied in with them as well. For solar fuel burners, there's a list of available high efficiency burners on the Ministry for Environment's website. So picking through those is really your best bet for finding something that's going to comply with the regulations as they stand. The benefits of them is if you sustainably source your wood, then you've got a sustainable heating source for your house. There's the added aesthetic value, and you can plummet a wetback to them if you so desire. The downsides is they're generally a bit more expensive. They need a little bit more maintenance, and there's a bit more consenting involved with that. For solar water heating, it was a system that we looked at. So these can be added onto your roof, and they heat your water through the solar. When you install these, you have to sort of make an allowance in the building process that you might need to build a stronger roof. To hold these and solar panels, you might need to be a bit more thought going into your roof design.
For this report, environmental effects were investigated and the methods to avoid, remedy and mitigate them. To start, noise and visual impacts were looked into. Being a construction site during land conversion and house construction, it is important the work is done between 7 AM and 10 PM. This reduces the noise effect on people living in the near vicinity. To reduce visual impacts, work should be done in stages to reduce soil disturbance, and rubbish should be kept to a minimum on site. For neighbourhood amenity, there should be as many green spaces as possible. This can be achieved by having property fences less than 1 metre so that people can connect. Within the recreational area, there should be parks, walkways and bike tracks available for locals to use throughout the year. It is important these green spaces are established as early as possible so that ecosystems can establish themselves, which increases future profitability and amenity. The main risks to water quality are sedimentation, construction effluent and heavy metals. Sedimentation can be reduced through doing earthworks in stages. Construction effluent effects can be mitigated by removing them off-site and disposing of them properly. Heavy metals can be reduced by using storminators and treating stormwater before it enters downstream waterways so that they can be removed from the water. Natural hazard effects can be reduced by following the building code, securing scaffolding during construction in case of an earthquake, and by providing adequate drainage and soak pits for high rainfall periods to reduce flooding effects. The local iwi, Ngā Tahu, will be contacted regarding all design options so that works being done are not culturally insensitive. The Ngā Ruanga will be contacted for all Iwi Management Act stipulations, and we will involve the local ruanga, Te Hapu o Ngā Wiki, for design input throughout. The Christchurch City Council will be contacted for any land use or subdivision queries. The most important form to be submitted to the Council is the assessment of environmental effects. This evaluates any risks posed on the environment by works proposed. This must be approved by the Council before any works can be carried on, so it is essential. The Regional Council Environment Canterbury will be consulted for any water and air quality and contaminated land concerns. Erosion is the main concern, so ECAN should be worked with closely to reduce the environmental effects this poses. Methods described in the Resource Management Act should be utilised.
To begin analysing cost feasibility, we had to find the expected profit of selling each of the sections and the cost of building a home on these sections. With these estimates of the profit for the developer and the cost to build for homeowners, our percentage cost recommendations can be found. These percentages allowed us to show what impact our recommendations would have and if they were viable options. Using this approach, it was found that for a smaller PV system to supply 2 kilowatts of solar power, the cost was around 1.25% of the build cost. When looking at increasing insulation, it was found that the cost increase would amount to under 1% and would help make more sustainable homes. When solar heating options were investigated with additional gas and electric boosts, the added cost was around 1%. These solar systems have a payback period between 2.1 to 13.9 years, depending on the size of the system. When solar water heating options were investigated with additional gas and electric boosts, the added cost was around 1%. These water systems have a payback period between 2 to 14 years, depending on the size of the systems. When recommending solar PV systems, we investigated the possibility of Dan subsidising the purchase of these systems. It was then recommended that he subsidise the purchase of their systems by $1,000, as this is the largest additional cost to homeowners. This subsidy would be around 10% of the cost and would encourage the purchase of the systems. This subsidy was estimated to account for less than 1% of the profit earned by Dan based on current real estate costings. It was also recommended that homes in the subdivision be built to a 6 Homestar rating. For the size of the homes on the subdivision, it is estimated that the additional cost for this would be between 2 to 3% of the overall build cost. From an increased cost perspective, the additions that we have recommended for both homeowners and Dan are considered to be feasible options due to their low impact on total costs.
At the conceptual design phase, there are a number of risks that threaten the development of Redmond Spur. These risks can be categorised as financial risks, health and safety risks, and unexpected event risks. Risk management is continuous and dynamic, and will change throughout the project lifetime. It is recommended that safety and design, or SID strategy, is formalised and documented throughout the project to identify and mitigate risk. Other management considerations, including Building Information Modelling, or BIM, will enhance the adaptability of the project to new and existing risks. A major financial risk is the rate of return on the initial capital investment in infrastructure and planning. It is difficult to predict the return due to the rigidity of the proposed program of works and the future uncertainty of the property market. Market desirability, for example, may change depending on interest rates, net migration, and the cyclical phase of the real estate market. Uncertainty also surrounds the cost of construction and materials, which poses risks directly to capital infrastructure cost and indirectly to market value. Health and safety risks apply to all phases of the development life cycle, from planning to construction to end users, and it is bound by the Health and Safety Work Act 2015. Construction health and safety risk has been evaluated using a probability and consequence matrix. In addition, any construction activities must comply with both health and safety legislation, technical design standards, and recommended construction methods. Consultation between the developer, the design engineers, and the contractors is to be undertaken to devise a more detailed SID risk management plan as the project progresses. The health and safety of future residents can also be managed by an SID strategy. Hazards to residents from increased traffic can be designed out of the road layout. In addition, resilience to natural disasters can be enhanced through thoughtful design of both self-sustaining energy systems, such as solar power, and catchment management. Unexpected risks are associated with events of significant consequences that have a low probability of occurrence. Unexpected risks are associated with events of significant consequences that have a low probability of occurrence. Significant events include, but are not limited to, natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, fires, and storms, market crashes, and the uncovering of culturally significant sites, such as Maori burial grounds. These types of events pose a degree of risks to the completion of the project and may result in temporary or permanent stoppage of work. Consideration of these risks will allow for effective management of unexpected costs, time delays, and the well-being of all the people involved in the project.